You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Roast Ryan Herrings. Thank you for being in every day or for making this one of your first listens every single day. We're talking about Ryan Hopkins, 2026 quarterback recruit, commit to the Wisconsin Badgers, had his first game on ESPN. I think a lot of people probably know, but if you don't, he is the quarterback for the #1 high school team in the country, Modern Day. They played St. Thomas Aquinas. He looked good. He looked really good. So good and bad, right? I'm going to break some of this down. Let's throw some comments up here from people that were there or saw it. Abner C says, yeah, this Ryan Hopkins kid is pretty good. Greg Biggins, Ryan Hopkins' best throw of the night, rips a post to Gavin Hunrow in stride for a 62-yard touchdown. Jake Kokorowski, friend of the show. That's 3 touchdown passes for Badger commit Ryan Hopkins in the first half. Modern Day leads St. Thomas Aquinas 26-3 at half. Guys, I said it when he committed, and this is his first. So a couple caveats. The team he's on is loaded. Modern Day has receivers going to Georgia. They have Chris Henry Jr., who's a 5-star, the #1 receiver in the country, going to Ohio State. Their tight end's a 5-star. They're loaded, but they're playing St. Thomas Aquinas. That's the number 6 team in the country. That team has won 6 straight titles in Florida. So he's on a loaded team, which I think is good, by the way. People use that as a negative, that, well, he's throwing to all these receivers. He's going to be throwing to college receivers at the college level. Being in a huddle and learning to command egos, learning to communicate with alphas, that's a massive part of this evolution for high school quarterbacks that he's not going to get if he's at any other high school, or at least at many other high schools. I think it's one of the most underrated parts of what he's doing at Modern Day is he's learning to be around other Division I athletes and commanding the huddle with those egos, with those Division I athletes. Excuse me. I think that's a big part of this. And he looked the part when he committed. 6'3", 195 pounds. He's a composite high 3-star, which I think that ranking is going to go up. I've talked about it. When he committed, I said, this is one of the toolsiest quarterbacks the Badgers have ever landed. Now, they still got to actually land him, and we're going to talk about that more coming up. But from a size standpoint, speed standpoint, arm strength standpoint, the Badgers just don't get many players that can run like him, that can throw like him, that are 6'3". He checks physically just about all the boxes except for an elite arm. He doesn't have an elite arm, but he has a good arm, great mobility, great speed for a quarterback, good size. And I thought he flashed all those tools, which is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a guy who's going to flash the tools. If you give me those tools, you give me heart, we'll coach the rest up to some degree. And he made a couple of early. Let's talk about some of the negatives. I thought he was a little anxious coming out of the gate. There was a couple of incomplete passes, a little bit of inaccuracy. He hung one ball where he was scrambling to the right, and he kind of left it up in the air a little bit too much. So there was a couple early, I think, indecision. I thought the footwork was a little choppy early on, and a couple, again, inaccuracies. But as the game went on, those got ironed out. And and then I apologize for the voice. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. And then I thought you really saw some of the tools take over. And that's what really got me excited. I saw the mobility. There was a play early in the game. He broke contain, right up the middle, 10-yard run. He trucked a guy. Now, we got to talk about this. You can't be trucking guys at the high school or at the college level. He's going to have to learn to slide, which he did on a later run. But at the high school level, I kind of like it because I want my quarterback to show heart. I want to see toughness. Again, if you give me a quarterback with the physical tools and heart and toughness, I feel like if we have competent coaches, we can coach up a lot of the rest. I want somebody who physically can do the things we need to do to be a next level quarterback, and then has that give a crap factor, has heart. And when I see a guy try to run somebody over in the first quarter of a high school game, I feel good about that. I like the mobility. He had another play still in the first half. He broke contain, rolled out to the left, got another first down. They ran a quarterback draw later in the game. Again, using the mobility, the legs. He had another impressive play as he started to settle down where he could have ran, he could have broke contain. Instead, he kept his head up. This is a big thing to me when I'm watching mobile quarterbacks. Can you keep your head up? Can you continue scanning the field? Can you make those secondary plays where receivers break free of coverage? He did that to Chris Henry Jr. It wasn't a big gain, but he could have ran for 6-7 yards instead. He kept his head up, broke out to the right. Nice little 7-8 yard pass to Chris Henry. Let's move the sticks, but let's get the ball into our playmakers' hands. I think if you're a mobile quarterback, that's something you have to be able to do at the next level. You have to keep your head up, scan the field. Not every play is I'm going to break, contain, and run play. Let's break, contain, and then extend the passing concepts. I thought he did a really nice job of that in this game. And then a couple of beautiful throws up the seam. I thought his two best throws, both throws up the seam, really layered over that first initial line of the zone, but underneath the second line in stride. One of them went for 62 yards. Another one was about a 30, 40 yarder. I'd have to go back and check yardage, but just a beautifully layered throw over that first level linebacker dropping, but underneath the safety. I thought he showed great intermediate accuracy. Short yardage, again, accuracy, I thought was a little hit or miss early on, but it looked like he was first game of the season jitters. I expect that to get better. After that first couple series, I actually thought he played really, really well, which given his physical skill set and given the fact that this is a new school for him, new players, new coaches, a lot of things meshing together, coming out of the gate playing one of the best teams in the country, I don't know how you can walk away with this and not be impressed. 13 to 23 of stats I saw per Evan Flood, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns in the first half. He did throw a pick in the second half, but I was really encouraged. I was really encouraged by the intermediate accuracy, by the decision making. For the most part, outside of a ball he hung a little bit in the first half, which he's going to have to get a little better there. I was pretty encouraged, man. And if you have a player with his physical skill set that can layer some of those throws in the intermediate zones, he could be a problem in the college level. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to get into your comments next. The concern that people keep throwing my way, how are you going to be able to hold on to him? And a few other areas that I thought he really excelled at. Again, big time 2026 part of this class. Ryan Hopkins, quarterback from Mater Dei. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Our first friends of the show over at Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Cialis. You've probably heard of Viagra. Sometimes you just need a little bit of help. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's probably time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast, 15 minutes on average. Effects can last up to 36 hours. So you can stay confident. You can stay in control when the moment is right. And maybe the traditional options haven't worked for you. Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. It's completely online. Rugiet connects you with board-certified doctors and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. So it's simple, it's easy, and with those 36 hours, you're going to be ready when the moment's ready. Right now, head over to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Use LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel as well. FanDuel, longtime partners of the show. Again, football is around the corner. Football is around the corner, but baseball's still going on. You got golf, soccer. It is a great time to get started over on FanDuel. If you want to bet some futures, you want to bet some overs, unders, parlay spreads, it's a great time to do it. Badgers 5.5, I'm pounding that over. Plus, you can get live in-game betting to spice up the game action if you're already into it. If you're following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? Right now, head over to FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, $5 if you're a new customer. Bet that $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's get some of your comments. For those of you that saw him play, that saw the game, what'd you think? I have a few other comments that I want to throw in just watching them, but this is a big part. Like having that quarterback locked in, playing at a national level. Here's another thing really quick I'll throw out there. When this is on ESPN, this is one of the marquee matchups of the high school season. You see that quarterback one come out for team one, and it's Wisconsin Badgers commit Ryan Hopkins. That's good publicity. Like that stuff matters too. You don't think other players on that team or other players nationally don't see Ryan Hopkins leading Mater Dei and he's committed to Wisconsin. That's interesting, right? Those things matter. Coach Max said he's here. Jake Duller says you got to hold on to him now. Coach Max said watching film right now, a couple ugly interceptions, looked like he chucked it a couple times. I have a 4 or 5 star down there somewhere. I'm not sure if I have a 4 or 5 star down there somewhere means he's looking at another guy in modern day. Yeah, there was a play in the second half where he kind of chucked it up, and there was a play in the first half he kind of chucked it up as well, where it wasn't an interception, but I thought he put probably a little too much air under it. It wasn't as decisive. I really thought he settled in though. I thought he got a lot better as the game went on in that first half. I like his ability to navigate the pocket, break out of the pocket, scramble, and slide down instead of trying to take a hit. Yeah, he had a couple slides. He did have one again where he tried to truck somebody, which I like. I like the heart at high school, but you have to be smarter than that as a quarterback for sure. Nathan says it helps having 5-star Chris Henry Jr. to throw the ball to. Yes, it does. But I'm telling you right now, St. Thomas Aquinas probably has 4 and 5-star defensive backs on that team too. That's where I think I don't want to diminish what he's doing because of who he's throwing it to. There were a couple contested windows he threw into, which tells you those St. Thomas Aquinas corners and DBs are pretty good, and they should be. That's a top 10 high school program every year. So he's playing with dudes, but he's playing against dudes. And I think that's an important thing to note here. And I talked about it. I don't think this gets talked about enough. I think it's really important for him in his development that he's working with elite guys. So he's learning to command the huddle with other alphas. He's not at a small, no disrespect to Wisconsin's high school, or I grew up in Connecticut for a while. No disrespect to Connecticut high schools, right? There's not as many alphas in those huddles, and learning to kind of navigate those personalities, those egos. That's part of being a quarterback too at the college, the D1 level. And he's getting an education in that area that a lot of quarterbacks can't get because they're not playing at modern day, or they're not playing at American Heritage, which is another powerhouse, or Bishop Gorman. These powerhouse high schools. I think there's some benefits in the intangible department you get from coming from programs like that, programs that are expected to win, that have a lot of pressure on them. He's playing on ESPN in week 1, right? He's getting almost a national audience as a high school quarterback. I'm telling you, I think there's intangible benefits to doing that as a quarterback, having that spotlight and that pressure and having to perform under it. So I do think there are benefits there. See, Bo says you learn literally nothing from watching an all-star high school team. I disagree. I mean, I love Bo, but I disagree. When you're not, I think you learn less watching like high school showcases where it's like high school American Bowl. I think you learn less from those. But when you're watching a top 10 matchup, if they were playing, Shell Lake High School that has 1,000 people in northern Wisconsin, it's different. They're playing St. Thomas Aquinas. Like, I think of course you can take stuff from that. DMN says, love seeing the talent, but UW hasn't been using their young quarterback at all. When will Wisconsin finally get off the quarterback retread carousel? So I think we're talking about just continuing to go to the transfer portals. I think they're going to portal again next year. That's a show for the offseason. I know they really like Carter Smith. I really like Carter Smith. And maybe Daniel O'Neill's the guy next year, right? And then you're off that continual circle, but you're going to lose Billy Edwards this year. I have a hard time thinking they're not going to go to the portal again next year when you have a redshirt freshman, Carter Smith, and a sophomore, Daniel O'Neill. So I think it's probably another year of the portal. Now, you might be bringing in a portal guy for competition and not to be the starter next year and hoping that Carter Smith can win that job or Daniel O'Neill can win that job. But I think we may have one more year of portaling. Mark says, hi from Petaluma, California. What's up, Sonoma, Mark? Friend of the show. Hope you're doing well. Wes says he won't be here. He will be at UCLA. So UCLA is definitely showing interest in him. Listen, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. Actually, let me finish up what I saw from Hopkins that I really liked. I thought there were some anticipation throws. There was one down the left sideline. He overthrew it, but I thought he read the read perfectly. I thought he overthrew it a little bit, but I thought there was some anticipation throws in the intermediate side to some of the deep sides that I thought he saw coming. He understood the coverage, understood where he wanted to go. Was a little off on a couple of them, but I liked the read he was making. Again, outside of a couple of throws, I was pretty impressed. Kenny Mack says, so what are the Badgers going to do with the quarterback that went to Michigan? We're talking about Carter Smith. So here's the thing. This is the other one, the one I want to hit on. You got to keep stacking talent. That's 100% what it is. So Carter Smith, I still really like the intangibles there. I like the physical ability. He's really had a couple, kind of came on late in practice as well. yeah, you get them both, right? And that's the thing. That's how it's going to work at every position. You just keep layering talent because not everybody works out. And as much as I like Carter Smith, and in no point am I writing him off, Ryan Hopkins is another guy to add that room. And the more athletes, the more high pedigree guys you can add to that room, the bigger chance somebody breaks through. You don't want all of your all your stock in one option. The more athletic, high pedigree, talented guys you can put in that room, the better you are. So adding Hopkins into that just increases the competition level. Let's say Carter Smith has a great offseason. Maybe he takes the job next year. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But maybe he doesn't. And then Hopkins and Carter Smith battle it out. And then the cream rises to the top. That's how all the really good programs do it, right? They stack multiple high-level quarterbacks in a room, and the best one wins. So I don't think this is any shot whatsoever on Carter Smith. I still really like what he brings to the room. But you add in a Hopkins, and it just gets better. Iron sharpens iron. Competition's good. It just gets better. Now, a lot of people are pessimistic he's going to stick. Zach says he's going to decommit from Wisconsin, pick a closer place like UCLA. Well, I'll tell you this, and we went on to say Wisconsin should consider moving on as well and start looking to flip someone closer to home. Wisconsin, no, I don't think any school in this era of college football, they're going to be caught shocked if someone were to decommit. It sounds like everything I've heard sounds like Ryan Hopkins is solid with Wisconsin. So I wouldn't freak out about it. I've talked about this before as well. He's going to be in a national spotlight. He has unique physical tools. There's going to be teams that take notice. But Wisconsin was in on him early, has built a great relationship. I know Kenny Guyton and him have a great relationship. So I don't know. Wisconsin's not going to bow out of this fight. And they're going to have to battle for him, but they're going to have to battle for a lot of guys, just like other schools are going to have to continue battling for their players. That's how it works now in college football. That's how it works in recruiting. So you keep battling for them. You lean into the relationships you've built. And nothing was shocking in recruiting. If you do lose them, I guarantee you Wisconsin has some backup options they've talked about and thought about as well. But that relationship's really strong. So I wouldn't chalk up anybody as 100%. Like there's no way this player's ever going to decommit. But I don't think it's a given. I think there's a pretty good chance he stays in this class because from what I've heard, the relationships there are really strong. And he's really liked what Wisconsin has done in this recruitment. So it's going to be a battle, though. It's absolutely going to be a battle. Nathan says if we go through the transfer portal again, we need to shoot higher and get a dude who can lift our programs back to the Big Ten contender. Yeah, let's see what Billy Edwards does. I mean, you're not wrong. Like I want to set the standard high as well. I think Billy's going to be pretty good for us this year. And I also thought Tanner Mordecai would be a little better than he would, but I think there's a better fit with the OC quarterbacks kind of synced up this year. So we're going to wrap it there. Again, big picture, I like the tools. I liked what he showed from some anticipation standpoint. I like the physical tools that he showed. I think it's good that he's playing under pressure, under a spotlight. That's only going to help a quarterback develop. There were some inaccuracies. There were a couple throws he'd like to have back. He's also in his first game of the season. So I think some of those things will probably come along. Bunch more coming up this week. Football in a few days. Absolutely love it. On Wisconsin. And I will talk to you all later.